Fort McMurray is a city of superlatives. For example, they plant the most trees here of any place or any industry in the country. They are major reforesters. That's one statistic for you. Here's another one. It's the wealthiest city in Canada. Average income, $186,000 per person. It's also the most generous, most charitable city in Canada, measured by the amount of money people give to charities like the United Way. But the cost of living is high up here too, and so you can actually qualify for social assistance if you're making as much as $96,000, I'm told. That's incredible. So you got to work hard and you'll get a lot of dough, but even some folks in this rich town need some help. We went to the food bank to talk about those in this prosperous city who need a little bit of help. We spoke with Ariana. Take a look at our interview here. Fort McMurray is the wealthiest city in Canada based on income. It's also the most generous city measured by charitable giving, and we are here at one of the focal points for that generosity, the food bank. Ariana, thanks for letting us in to tell us your story.
Well, thank you for coming and giving us the opportunity to tell it.
Well, this is a prosperous place where people make six-figure incomes, but sometimes people fall through the cracks, they lose their job, or they had a tough time in the first place. Tell me about a food bank in the midst of this rich city.
I think that a food bank anywhere, people are often surprised that Fort McMurray has a food bank, but if you look at any prosperous city in the world, there are people who struggle, there are people who run into situations that put them into poverty or put them into need. And so I think that a food bank, even in the most prosperous places, is a vital and central part of the community, not just because it feeds people, but it also gives those who are prospering the opportunity to give back in a meaningful and impactful way. And so really our clients, they range from people who maybe make six-figure incomes, but they're having to travel down the highway to get medical help because we don't have the doctors we need here. And the impact of those expenses makes it such that if they have to make a choice between their house and feeding their kids. Or they're people who work in the retail or janitorial or hospitality industries that isn't paid what an oil site worker is. Or they're people who have been laid off or people who are struggling with addictions, and so or on social services. Our clientele span the entire continuum of income, and it's really about circumstance, and sometimes circumstances just warrant that you need a little bit of help.
Isn't that interesting? Now, the price of oil has fallen dramatically in the last year. That's had layoffs. That's got to be affecting things. How has your caseload changed in the last 12 months?
So the first quarter of 2015, we saw a 74% increase over the first quarter of 2014. We've been seeing continual increases over the last couple of years. It really started in 2013, where we had a 43% increase over 2012. And then 2014 stabilized a little bit. The increase was only about 12%. But we are then, with 2015 and the layoffs, we really started seeing that impact come January. Because the initial layoffs with the oil prices didn't impact locals. It impacted contractors who don't live here. And so it impacted food banks in other locations, right? And so then January, when local layoffs started and local hour cutbacks and overtimes started being cut back, that's when the local impact was felt.
Wow. Now we're standing in front of an empty shelf right now. There's just one little can there. You recently stocked out. You ran out of food and you put out the call. Tell me how that happened, and tell me what happened when you put out the call to the city.
Yeah, so because of the increase in the first quarter, we went through the same amount of food that we normally would have lasted us about 6 to 9 months on any other given year. So our Christmas food drives, really generally the food from that will get us into at least the end of June historically, and we won't start having to purchase or put calls out until that time. This year, with the increase that we saw in the first quarter, we were having to put those calls out and spend an increasing amount of money on non-perishable foods, thereby having to decrease what we were buying in perishables. And so we did put the call out. We decided to kind of replicate the success of our Christmas food drive around Easter. And in that food drive, in the 2 days of that food drive, we raised more than 2 days of the Christmas food drive.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. This community just continually comes out time and time again to make sure that no one goes hungry and that the social sector has what it needs to really be as effective as they can.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, I've gotten to know a different side of Fort McMurray in this visit. I mean, usually I'm focused on the industry. You know, I love going into the mines, or I love going up further north. We've tried to, talk to regular folks who, are not celebrity newsmakers or whatever. I got a question for you. If there was one side of Fort McMurray that you wish the rest of the country knew about, that they don't, like a secret side of Fort McMurray that you wish others knew about, what would you tell them? Because I don't think that the rest of the country knows the whole Fort McMurray story. And what they do know, I think, is often harsh criticism by people who don't like Fort Mac. So what would you tell the world?
I think that I would tell them that this is a home like any other home. There's lots to do. The people are friendly. And the people who live here, not the people who come here to work, but the people who live here, this is our home. And when the rest of the world focuses on just what industry is doing or just what the people who come here to work is doing, they're missing the best parts of us. We have amazing and talented people who come from here and who put on amazing theatrical performances at our local college, and there's just, we're no different than any other home. But I guess the other thing I would say is that you have to be prepared to live here. It's colder, it's more expensive, our winter is longer, our summer is way hotter and way shorter, and you have to be prepared to put the effort into making this your home. But you need to be prepared before you move here, because while yes, it is all of those things, it's a home like any other. And if you choose to make it your home, then it will choose to treat you well.
Amazing. Ariana, what a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, and good luck to all you do. They've got a lot of oil sands pride. Even at the food bank, people were talking about how great this town is. They're blown away by the generosity of people. They work hard, they play hard, and they help each other out. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.